the cops, also what's happening there in Uvalde as well. Joining us to discuss is political analyst Mark Halperin and host of the Jason Rantz show, Jason Rantz. Good to see all of you here. Halperin, if I can, I'll just jump right into this. You may have seen Democratic Senator Murphy there on Capitol Hill pleading essentially for more to be done in schools. However, if you look back to 2020, those same Democrats that are pushing for more gun control are the same ones that pulled federal funding away for cops in schools. It was called the Counseling, Not Criminalization in Schools Act, introduced by Senator Chris Murphy, again, back in 2020. Your thoughts on that in watching these same lawmakers ask for change, but yet pull funding for officers in schools 2 years ago?
Morning, Sean. With all due respect, I don't have patience for anything but bipartisan efforts to address the problem that is raised by the murder of precious children. So there's plenty of research that can be done on the history of both parties and of individual actors, but there are bipartisan talks going on now that Senator Murphy's involved in. I want bipartisan solutions to address this so parents don't have to deal with the horror.
Sure, but not a lot gets done when we talk about bipartisan solutions, because there is this hyper ask for assault-style bans on rifles. You have President Biden saying that the Second Amendment is not absolute. The Constitution obviously says differently. Jason Rantz, I'll get your response on that.
Yeah, I would love to see bipartisanship too. Unfortunately, we have not seen that. We've certainly heard a lot of talk about it, but we haven't actually seen any action, because the end goal of the Democratic Party right now is a place where Republicans and the Constitution don't want us to go, which is totally banning guns. If you can't take baby steps, then at least towards some sorts of solutions, you're never actually going to get them. Not only have Democrats pulled cops out of the schools, but understand they've also had this nationwide effort to ban gun enhancement charges against gang members, against other violent folks. So let's stop pretending that this is anything about just a total gun ban, while also leaning into this equity argument that has made this country more unsafe.
Yeah, Halperin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What are some bipartisan measures that you would like to see?
Again, trying to attack the other side. I'm saying this about both sides. Trying to attack the other sides, to cherry pick things, not going to help children. It's really all I care about right now, is to try to keep this from happening again. So, for instance, red flag laws have the support of Republicans and Democrats in the states. Some Republicans have supported at the federal level. I think anybody who's either talking about banning all guns or accusing Democrats of wanting to ban all guns isn't helping save children right now. There are other bipartisan ideas. There's been bipartisan support for different kinds of background checks. There are things that have received some bipartisan support. They may not all be perfect. They may not all please every American, but all I want is bipartisan solutions to try to protect babies and children.
Yeah, right. But everyone wants that. The discussion is about the attacks from the left and the right. You seem to be saying that the attacks are only coming from the right. The left is blaming.
No, I didn't say that. The attacks are coming from both sides. I've got no patience for attacks from either side, or for making accusations like, for instance, saying Democrats want to ban all guns. There are some Democrats who want to do that, but that's not the position, I think, of a single United States senator or of the White House. I am concerned in normal cases about the back and forth. It's interesting. I'm not concerned about that or interested in that now. I say that with respect to both of you. All I care about is the areas where there can be bipartisan compromise to save children. And I named two. There are more that have received bipartisan support. Let's debate.
And everybody believes that, Mark. The question is, will they actually put that bill forward? We had yesterday, Senator Schumer said he wasn't going to introduce any gun control measure, at least as of now, because he said that Republicans wouldn't support it. So that obviously means they're not forwarding some of the bipartisan solutions that exist.
I wish he hadn't said what he said. I think his rhetoric has not been helpful. But what he did do is, rather than force votes that he knew Republicans were going to be against, he's now empowered some of his members to talk to Republican senators to try to find bipartisan compromise. And in this case, that's what we should all be encouraging. Even if it was imperfect, even if it infringes upon the Second Amendment in ways some Americans won't like, I think that's all we should be doing right now, because babies were killed.
Yeah, but the problem, Mark, with that is if they pass something that infringes on the Second Amendment, it immediately gets overturned, or it will eventually get overturned.
I agree, but I'm saying is they shouldn't pass. I don't think. Do you think red flag laws violate the Second Amendment? They've been passed by Republican
I don't think they violate the Second Amendment. I think there's problems potentially depending on how it's written over due process. I think you've seen some cases where it's been very, very effective. In other cases, there seems to be a little bit of an overreach. So we have to find that balance, I think.
I agree, but all I want to do in the privilege we have to speak to people over this mass communication, all I want to do is encourage Democrats and Republicans to pass a red flag law that has no due process violations, that won't be overturned by the court, that can receive bipartisan support and might save a child from being killed. That's all I care about now.
No one wants a child's lives lost. I'll just jump in here if I can. Again, to get any legislation passed, you're going to need 60 votes in the Senate. You've already have senators asking for the filibuster, again, Bernie Sanders, for that to be removed. But perhaps in a discussion that I brought up before is that more that could be done on the state level. Look at what happened in 2018 in Parkland, which I believe we're going to have one of the parents on later in this broadcast. They changed some of the protocols there for the schools, school resource officers, the Guardian program, where there are willing teachers to be armed in the classrooms, obviously keeping locked doors, which seems like common sense. But those things may or may not have been done. We're learning more about this investigation there into Uvalde. But I guess my point here, Mark, it's not always a federal response. There are other ways to address this than gun control, gun solutions, take the guns, et cetera.
100%. I'd ask every governor, every mayor, every police chief, every principal, every superintendent to make the same commitment I'm asking senators to make and the president to make. Stop making political accusations. Stop doing opposition research. Stop red herrings and false charges. Let's focus on sensible policies that can win bipartisan support, not be overturned by the court, not violate due process or the Second Amendment, that will protect children. I know that's what everybody says they want, but the proof is in how we emphasize it and how we use the valuable time we have on the airwaves. Do we use it to push for bipartisan solutions, or do we use it to make accusations?
Well, I'm not using it for anything. I'm a news anchor. I want to bring out the facts. So what I'm showing are what Democrats are saying and what Republicans are saying. But feel free to push for what you'd like. Obviously, Jason, Mark, go ahead.
Sean, just to be clear, I was not talking about you. I was talking about what I've seen over the last few days across the airwaves on social media. There's a crisis. There's a crisis in this country. People disagree about what's causing it. But I think we can all agree that we have to put a stop to it. This is a unique problem in the United States, the frequency of it. And if those little children being killed can't bring us together to try to solve it constitutionally, equitably, in a bipartisan basis, I'm not sure what the soul of this nation is like.
Jason Rantz, I'll give you the final thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, again, everyone wants the same thing. The reason why some of us push back at some of the rhetoric that comes from the left and sometimes from the right is because that gets in the way. And sometimes really bad ideas take hold. And you have to make sure that those bad ideas that we know are unconstitutional, that we know aren't going to go anywhere, that we know offer a false promise, have to be stopped. And so we redirect every time we go after the really bad ideas. And let's be clear, and you know this, Mark, there have been really, really bad and unconstitutional ideas. So we have to criticize those, and then we have to pivot to the stuff that actually works. But the folks who are getting criticized, who are in power right now on the left on gun control, they have to be willing to accept the criticism and then find that bridge that they can build with the other side that's constitutional and will actually get something done. Because at the end of the day, we don't just want a law for the sake of having another law. We want to make sure it's actually going to be effective.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think if you pull this conversation back, despite how you feel about rhetoric that is used by politicians, again, back to the overall point, the need is there, the want is there. Everyone's on the same page here. Children need to be protected. Look, if you can go into Louis Vuitton and that thing is guarded to the teeth with people outside for handbags, we've got to keep our children safe. There's got to be a way to do this. We'll leave it right there. Mark Halperin, Jason Rantz, thank you so much for having this open dialogue. We do appreciate that.
Thank you both.
All right.